this was my identity.
Nobody talks about how freaking hard it is to be a dentist. What most people talk about is how this affects the patient. What nobody talks about is how this affects us. Dentistry is ready for this. Now is really the time.
Welcome to Wellness in Dentistry. I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kyle Stanley, who is a dentist, tech entrepreneur, speaker, and researcher. And my name is Dr. Martin Mendelssohn, your other co-host, a disabled dentist, coach, speaker, and author. And in fact, my first book, One Move Makes All the Difference, is available for pre-order wherever books are sold. And together, we've helped thousands of dental professionals pursue wellness in dentistry. And if you're unfamiliar with us, we invite you to check out our respective links, websites, and course offerings on our site, wellnessanddentistry.com. And if you like what you are hearing and you want to hang out with us for 2 solid days, we're lots of fun. This coming August 8th and 9th, we'll be back at Glidewell Dental Laboratory for Lightside Live, one of the only in-person mental and practice wellness courses for dentists in the country, if not the world. And so we want to welcome you to this recording today. Kyle, welcome to you as well, my friend. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm excited for this topic.
I know, because what we're talking about today is when you feel like quitting dentistry, what do you do first? This is a huge topic that I know comes across our, I'll call it desks, I'll put that in air quotes, on a regular basis and also on social media, because dentistry isn't easy. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and I want to be very specific with what we're saying with this topic. The title is When You Feel Like Quitting Dentistry, What to Do First.
Yeah.
We are not recommending that people quit dentistry. I think, on the contrary, Martin and I know that dentistry can be an incredible profession. We
Yep.
can help people get their function back, get their aesthetics back. They get literally healthier many times after doing things that we do in our practices. But we do know that this feeling comes up.
Yep.
So I first want to say that what Martin and I are going to talk about today is not how to quit dentistry. It's what to do when you feel this idea come up that, oh my gosh,
Yes.
I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Because I've been there.
Yeah.
I came home and told my wife one evening, I'm going to quit. I can't do this
Hmm.
anymore. It's too challenging. And I'm thankful that I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I was able to stay in dentistry. And it's because of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's the dentistry is so challenging. And also, like any business, we can have seasons where things are easier than others. And I mean, gosh only knows, about 5 years ago, it was a challenge for the world, let alone dentistry, when the entire profession was forced to shut down in most places. But this is when you feel like you're beyond the season, or if you feel like you're drowning within that season. And what do I mean by seasons? Maybe a string of difficult patient challenges, a string of team challenges, a string of financial challenges and surprises that you didn't expect, those kind of things. And one of the things that I talk about pretty routinely as a coach and also as in my book is the idea that life is not a game of dominoes. And so negative things that happen or positive things that happen aren't connected necessarily. In fact, most of the time they're not. And so it is very easy, and I say this with respect, it is very easy when you have 2 or 3 bad things happen in a row to be like, I'm having a bad week, I'm having a bad month, or just I'm having a bad day. Very respectable to feel that way. While at the same token, the fact that you spilled your coffee on your scrubs and then somebody hit your bumper and then one of your team called out doesn't isn't all connected and doesn't mean you have to have a bad day. And that may sound trite. And we talk a lot more about that mindset stuff in some of our other podcasts, but today we're talking about, okay, when you're feeling this way, what do you do first is the idea. So,
Yeah. And I would say if you're feeling this way and you recognize it, that is actually a positive.
oh yeah.
You've done the first step of any challenge or of any problem, which is have the self-awareness
Yeah,
to notice that something has changed.
totally. Totally.
And
Yeah.
so just having that awareness, you should kind of celebrate it. I know that sounds again maybe trite too to be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yay. I know that I want to quit. Wow, I'm so proud of myself," right? But I think for Martin and I who are in this personal development space, that is a step
Yeah.
and it's something to be celebrated maybe in hindsight.
Yeah, no, totally, totally, totally. So let's kind of get into the details because the devil's in
Yeah.
the details. Let's talk about the mechanics. Like if you were sitting there and thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, I hate this." Like what would you do first today knowing what you know? What are your thoughts?
Well, let me tell you about what I wouldn't do. Okay, because I
Good.
think that is just as important as what I
Yeah,
would do.
fair. Yeah.
What I wouldn't do is say, oh my gosh, I need to take more clinical courses.
Yeah, true.
So, oh, I'm so burnt out with doing this. You know what? You know why I'm probably burnt out? It's because I don't know how to do aligners. That's why. Or, it's
Yeah.
because I'm not placing my own implants. Or
Yeah.
it's because I haven't learned IV sedation. Or it's because my digital smile design isn't great enough. Listen, I did all that
Yeah.
and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I know many, 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 many dentists, I mean, hundreds of dentists that have done that exact thing. And all that does is bring you down more
Hmm.
because most of the time, the reason why you want to quit has nothing to do with your clinical dentistry,
Yep.
with your skills, or with your knowledge. Most of us are pretty good at clinical dentistry.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things, I mean, that's such a big thing. It's something that you and I
Yeah.
talk about all the time. Is like, with dentists, because we are clinical in nature, our first inkling to fix something is to do it clinically.
Yeah. And I would even extend that too. Like, for example, when people are thinking not necessarily they want to quit, but they want to increase their production, the first place they go is adding something.
Yeah.
And that is something that knowing what I know now and having coached thousands, that would be the last thing I would do. And what I mean by that is the first thing I would do is to look at my own house and look at what am I doing? How much of it am I doing? What's the case acceptance of what I'm doing? All that kind of stuff that, we could talk about in a different episode. But it's even that if we're looking to increase production, just like you were saying, the answer to increasing production or to fixing burnout isn't especially the first step, isn't adding something. That
Yeah.
would
Well,
be one of the
remember, I don't
later
know if you remember
steps.
this statistic, but with my AI company, Pearl, when we go in and analyze people's data and their practices,
Hmm.
we haven't found a practice yet that doesn't have $1 million in their practice waiting there.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
pretty
that's not
wild, isn't
adding
it?
anything.
Right.
That's just finding more things,
Hmm.
getting it treatment planned, and
Yep.
getting it scheduled.
Yeah.
It's waiting in there. It's like so many times we focus on, and maybe this is another thing you shouldn't do if you're feeling like quitting dentistry is thinking you need to get more patients.
Totally.
Now,
Totally.
take into account, I'm assuming that you have an established practice, right? You've been
Right.
open for a year or two. You're not,
Yeah.
you don't have 5 patients a week and you're brand new scratch practice, right? Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Yes, you need more patients in that case. But I would hope that you wouldn't be burnt out at that point as well.
Yeah.
So knowing that there is value in your practice
Hmm.
will hopefully allow you to think inside your practice and not outside your practice as a first
Absolutely.
step.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you the
So,
second thing that I
yeah.
wouldn't do, Martin, which kind of goes with the first thing.
Hmm.
I wouldn't try to work more.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Th-
100%.
This this is something that I did. I was like, you know what? Because I think anxiety and stress many times comes from the feeling of being out of control.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like, oh, I've got too many notes to write and I need to, do these lab prescriptions
Yeah.
and I need to call this patient to follow up after I did that surgery on her today. And I've got to hire that new hygienist and,
Hmm.
we've got to fix the chair and my
Yeah.
son is sick and, my
Yeah.
wife wants to go on a vacation or whatever. All of that can make us feel very out of control. And what many of us, I heard this the other night on a podcast. Uh, oh, what do they call it? I can't remember, but it was something about being an overachiever. It was like overachievers that are gosh, I can't remember what the word was, but basically overachievers that are kind of worried all the time, which I think many
Mm,
dentists are.
yeah.
Being someone that's an overachiever, like we are, we tend to say, well, I'm just going to do more. I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to
Hmm.
grind. So I'm
Hmm.
going to come in early and I'm going to do lab cases before anybody gets there. And then I'm going to stay late, while my spouse and my kids are going to bed. I'm going to do there and I'm going to write my notes until
Hmm.
9 p.m.
Yeah.
And your practice will get a little more organized. But what do you think will suffer?
Yeah.
Your
Exactly.
your personal life, right? You're
Yeah.
not going to see your friends, you're not going to see your family, you're not going to have time to exercise, you're not going to do any of this stuff. So I see this all the time where people say, gosh, I'm so frustrated with dentistry.
Hmm.
I think I just need to work harder. I need to come
Yeah.
in on Saturdays and I need to do, work till 9 p.m.
Yeah. No.
That's not the
And
answer.
not only is it not the answer, it skips the first step that I would recommend. I mean,
Mm.
because it completely negates doing anything without data, which is so incredibly important, right? So, I mean, if we were sitting there and you said to me, Martin, I really hate dentistry, the first thing I would likely say is, first of all, thank you for saying that. That's a big deal. We spent all these years training to be a dentist. So to say you hate something you spent so much time, effort, and money on, that's a big deal. That's the realization. So kudos. But the second step is, okay, let's take a step back. And what is it about dentistry you don't like? And we really need to go through, in essence, a list of all of the things that are on your plate. And obviously it'll differ if you're an associate versus an owner. But the truth of the matter is that almost everybody I've ever coached, uh, we've gotten to the point that it's just something or a group of somethings that they don't like. Now, that isn't always the case. And look, if you've made the decision to step out and you're like, no, that, I've looked at all this stuff. This isn't what I'm going to do. We both, have a good friend in Laura Brenner who we would recommend as a coach. She focuses on when you've made that decision to get out, she will help you figure out with her own systems. And she's a great coach to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, so Martin and I are very much about keeping people in
Yeah,
dentistry, but
totally.
keeping them happy
Yep.
and well and
Yep.
successful and have longevity and sustainable.
Yep.
But if you're listening to this and you're like, I've decided dentistry is not really for me. I think I got
Hmm.
into the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Talk to Laura Brenner. I've sent
Yeah.
multiple people to her because sometimes I get people that come to my course and they take my course and say, your course is really great, but I think I've really decided that this just isn't for
Yeah.
me. And
Totally.
I'm not the person to help someone like that.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
So yeah,
Totally.
just a little side note,
Yeah. A little side note.
look up Laura.
So I think the first thing is, okay, what is it about dentistry you hate? And we really need to take a step back and think about it. And so my recommendation, particularly if you're going through it yourself, and let's say you're a practice owner or you have leadership responsibilities, I would first segregate those to just be able to look at those as two different buckets. It's
So
like, okay,
you're saying clinical and non-clinical
correct,
tasks,
correct.
okay?
Because oftentimes the stuff, particularly the practice owners or practice partners don't like, it's not the clinical dentistry, it's the other
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so, when it comes to the administrative side, what is it about this that you do not like? And once we figure out what it is that we do not like, ooh, let's try that again. Then, therefore, there may be ways that those kind of things can be taken off your plate because your time is valuable. Like you were talking earlier, the answer is not working more. And so, let's say you hate bookkeeping and you're up until 9 o'clock at night doing the books. Well, what's your time worth per hour? And should you be doing this stuff? So I mentioned this before. Kyle gave me a recommendation for a bookkeeper, one of the best things I've done all year. And
Hmm.
so we're actually recording this at the last day of the month, and she and I have set up systems. And so we're still in the entry phase of working together. And there were
Yeah.
some there was almost half a dozen recurring payments she was going to set up for me. And so what did I do? I set up a spreadsheet with what the recurring payments are, all of the details, and then I added a column saying date it was set up because I said to her, as long as you're in there, just put the date that you set it up, and then I don't even have to bug you because I know it's done.
Yeah.
And so this morning I was like, oh, wait a minute. I went in, I looked at the system, I saw it was done, we're done. So my point to you is the first step is figuring out the things that you don't want to do, how much time you're actually spending doing it. Does it make financial sense that you're spending all this time? And if you have the resources, how can you lift this off of your plate? Right?
Hmm.
So that would be my focus on the administrative side. What are your thoughts there?
I think that's really good. And it's so funny how I don't even know if we're realizing what we're doing, but we're kind of going through the ripple
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
true.
so
We
we're
are.
starting with realizing that there's a problem, making the acknowledgement that yes, I'm
Hmm.
thinking of quitting. Second thing is identifying. You're going through and
Yeah.
identifying these different triggers, right? So it's just funny that you're saying that. That
Yeah.
I think without knowing it, this becomes the recurring answer of how to follow through with changing your life in dentistry.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the next one, I'm kind of gonna skip one part of the ripple theory and go to the next one, which is the learn module.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying with this is if you are thinking, gosh, I'm gonna quit dentistry, this job is so freaking hard.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm just sick of this.
Yeah.
I would say focus on your physical health
Yeah.
because this was something I didn't do.
Hmm.
I did all the opposite of what I'm telling you, by the
Yeah.
way, and it didn't work out for me at first. Dentistry is hard. There's
Hmm.
going to be challenges. There's going to be crucial conversations. There's going to be patients that show up late that don't want to pay. There's going to be team members that are frustrated with you. There's going to
Hmm.
be chairs that break. There's going to be lab cases that come late.
Yep.
That doesn't end. And,
Yep.
and, and I wish it did, but it doesn't. So you need to show up in your best state that you can be. That means
Absolutely.
having slept 8 hours. That means
Hmm.
having eaten a healthy breakfast. That
Hmm.
means, having your mind clear
Yep.
to accept some of these challenges that are going to come and have the resilience to go through them.
Hmm.
That that means eating well, exercising when you can, because dentistry is so challenging. You can't show up bruised and broken and then
Yep.
expect to measure in microns
Yep.
and also manage a team.
Absolutely. And so therefore, what I would say is let's make that bucket number three.
Okay.
So not necessarily the third that we would look at, but one of the primary buckets. So it's personal health, how I'm feeling about leadership, administrative,
Hmm.
how am I feeling about clinical? And so the
Yeah.
questions I would ask myself is, am I exercising? Am I eating healthily? Am I getting enough sleep? And am I taking the time to go for massage or stretching, things that are honoring my body like as a vessel, because that's how we provide dentistry is through our body, so we can't ignore it. And so, where are we with those things? And what needs to change. So that would certainly be another bucket. If you're sitting here saying to yourself, I hate dentistry, I want to get out. It's okay, great. Let's evaluate the life then. Let's evaluate how I'm feeling about my physical health. Let's evaluate how I'm feeling about leadership, administrative responsibilities. Let me evaluate clinical life, which we'll
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. With me, and I would say even if we're going to go deeper into the health part, I think the
Hmm.
very first thing you should focus on is your sleep.
Yeah.
So much research on this. I mean, if you're not sleeping, I gotta find the actual quote, but it's something like if you get less than 7 hours of sleep,
Hmm.
which many of us do,
Hmm.
if you get less than 7 hours of sleep, your reactivity
Hmm.
in interpersonal relationships goes up. I'm gonna make up the quote, but let's say it goes up 40% or something.
Yeah.
Now, think of how that impacts you throughout the day.
Hmm.
You're not as resilient when that patient complains about something or when
Yep.
that, hygienist walks in 10 minutes late and you've been talking to him or her about coming late.
Hmm.
But just getting that sleep and making that a priority makes you healthier. You're less likely to
Mhm.
get sick.
Absolutely.
You're going to react better. You're less
Yep.
likely to get in a car accident, even. I mean, there's a ton
Yep.
of research on this. So even in the health category, when you think of sleep, exercise, meditation,
Mhm.
water, hydration, I would say put sleep first.
Well, and if you still think this is frou-frou or not real or not everybody's the same, I invite you to Google what happens when we have daylight savings time.
That's right.
1 hour shift increases auto accidents, increases
Heart attacks.
ER visits, heart attacks,
Hmm.
police calls. It's insane what 1 hour can do. So even if you're not buying into this, folks, just look that up. And if that doesn't change your mind, I don't know what will.
And Martin, from a research standpoint,
Mhm.
it's both positively and negatively
Yep.
correlated, meaning when you get 1 hour of sleep, so when
Yep.
we fall back,
Hmm.
that next day you have, I think it's something like 70% less car accidents
It's
and
amazing.
heart attacks and all those things you're talking about. And then on the opposite side, when we lose that hour, you have a positive correlation with it too.
Yep.
So it's both negatively and positively correlated, which in a research standpoint is like, okay, this is not
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And that is a test with a giant amount of sample data, right? I mean, we're
Absolutely.
talking 100 million people or more,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? No, I mean,
Absolutely.
you're talking way more than that. You're talking multiple hundreds of
Yeah,
millions. Yeah,
totally. Totally, totally. So let's shift to the clinical evaluation, like the
yeah,
first step, right? So the first thing that I would say to anybody that says, I want to get out of dentistry because clinical is really frustrating.
yeah.
If you have a clear idea of which procedures are frustrating you, great. If you don't, then I would actually recommend for about 2 weeks, depending on how much you practice, 2 weeks to 4 weeks, literally tracking, okay, what was
Journaling.
it that I was doing and how did I feel doing it?
Yeah.
Right. So that would be the first thing to understand which things you actually like or don't like, or let's reframe causing stress, not causing stress. Then I would look at the actual data. It's like, okay, so where is our production or revenue coming from? We're doing mostly this, but what's our case acceptance? So if you discover that you really like doing veneers as an example, how many of those are you doing? What is your case acceptance? Where are you falling short in case acceptance? What patterns have you noticed so that you could increase the number of veneer cases? As part of the financial evaluation in terms of what are you doing per hour? What's driving that production per hour? What are you doing most of? What are you doing least of? What is your average production per hour? Because I got news for you, and we alluded to this before. Adding aligners or adding endodontic procedures or adding implant placement isn't necessarily the answer. In fact, most of the times it isn't
Yeah.
because your efficiency isn't there. And so you're actually going to be making less money per hour, particularly in the beginning. So understanding what's driving your practice from a financial perspective, what you're doing per hour, what's comprising that hourly rate, and the case acceptance of the things that you like and dislike is where we need to start to figure out how we can recreate a clinical life that drives a greater amount of contentment.
Well, this reminds me of Dr. Laura, a different Laura than we talked about. So Dr. Laura, and you've met Laura before, Martin. She was one of my students at USC.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she was a few years out of school. She was practicing with her father. She practices up in the Vancouver area.
Mm-hmm.
And she was literally suicidal. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so she lived in this high-rise building, and she told me she was looking out the window as a way out.
Yeah.
So not only was she wanting to quit dentistry, she wanted to quit life. Right?
Ugh.
Now, luckily, she saw something that I posted. She ended up joining Lightside Academy, my online course, and I worked with her very closely. And one of the things we did was what Martin's talking about right now, because what she said was, I don't really like restorative dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. Tell me more about that. She's like, well, I hate packing cord and I hate when you're working down by the gingiva and it's bleeding and you can't get the impression or the scan. And like, I just don't like that as much as other people do. And
Mm-hmm.
so she had this imposter syndrome, really. She was like, every dentist loves that I know loves prepping crowns and I don't.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
feel like this loser, like something's wrong with me. What the heck's wrong with me? And in this process, I was talking to her and I said, what do you like with
Mm-hmm.
clinical dentistry? And she goes, I love airway.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I love airway too. Let's talk about it? And as we started talking, I said, what if you got out of your practice that's mostly restorative and maybe you bought an airway practice or you're an associate
Mm-hmm.
at an airway practice or you stopped doing restorative in your
Mm-hmm.
practice and you brought airway in? She's like, I can't do that. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, I,
Mm-hmm.
I practice with my dad.
Yeah.
And, I can't just go to a different practice. And I was like, who said so?
Yeah. Who
And
made
it
up
took,
that rule, as I like
yeah,
to say?
and it took her a little while. I can't remember how long it was, but within the next year, she sold her part of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
She bought an airway practice,
Mm-hmm.
and it completely changed her life
Yeah.
because now she goes loving what she's doing.
Yeah.
And now she was one of the rare ones in that I've helped that
Mm-hmm.
really one of the problems was with clinical dentistry, meaning she
Mm-hmm.
didn't complain a lot about the managerial stuff or,
Mm-hmm.
the payroll and that kind of stuff, which
Mm-hmm.
is rare actually. It
Mm-hmm.
really was that she just didn't feel fulfilled and she wasn't
Yeah.
excited about doing the work.
Yeah.
Now she is. She got married, she had a child recently. I mean, it's not like her life is perfect,
Yeah.
but oh my gosh, how it has changed going from suicidal, wanting to
Yeah.
jump out the window,
Yeah.
to having this practice that she loves.
Well, it's interesting you brought this up because I don't know whether it's because it was Spear that I was at for so many years, because obviously Spear is going to attract people that want to, jump into more comprehensive and complex care. But I know quite a number of practice partners where one of them really loves the complex treatment planning, the comprehensive cases, and the other one just wants to do bread and butter dentistry. And it that can be an incredibly successful model and make both people happy because one of the partners is doing, the more complex stuff. The other partner is doing the more bread and butter, and you're each doing what it is you want to do. In fact, one of my good friends, they're wonderful practice partners and they're really, really good friends. It's the scenario I just described. And they even decided that the one who wants to do more comprehensive stuff, he's kind of rebranding himself toward that marketplace because they
Hmm.
actually live in LA and he actually has quite a number of celebrity clients and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Do I know
And
them, by the way?
yeah, you do.
Okay.
And it's working really well.
Hmm.
And they're both doing exactly what they want to do. And
Yeah.
you can so many times what dentists don't realize is it doesn't have to be or, it can be and.
Hmm.
I have to do this or that. Well, who said that?
Hmm.
We can do this and that, meaning I can have my cake and eat it too. It is possible, and others have done it over and over and over again. We, me included, get in our own way with the thoughts that go on between our ears, and there are ways to overcome and get over it. But the first step is to figure out what you like and what you don't like versus
Yeah.
catastrophizing to the profession or the way you make a living as a whole. That's the
Yeah.
first.
What you just explained with one partner doing this, the other partner doing this is kind of how my practice is now.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
when we first bought our practice and we bought
Hmm.
it from a guy named Mark, and Mark was going to move to Idaho. Okay,
Hmm.
so he moved to Idaho actually and was going like back and forth every 2 weeks. He was practicing in Idaho, he was practicing here, and then he realized he didn't really like practicing in Idaho and he was having so much fun with
Hmm.
us. So he's
Yeah.
like he learned biomedic dentistry and he was like just loving working with two younger
Hmm.
guys. And so he ended up buying back into the practice. Okay. Now Mark works there more than I work there, and sometimes more than Matt works there too, right?
Yeah.
But what we realized over time is we all like doing specific things. So for me, it was more of the perio-pros stuff. I
Hmm.
like doing the implant stuff, both the surgical and the restorative side.
Hmm.
Matt really liked doing the full mouth rehabilitations, um, the aesthetic stuff. And Mark really likes doing bread and butter dentistry. He loves doing
Yeah.
just like two posterior onlays
Yeah.
or, a crown on an upper molar or
Hmm.
this single implant crown. And he's very efficient at it. He's very good at it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've figured that. And maybe some of it comes with age too, because he's in his 60s and
Sure.
he said like, I did all that stuff when I was younger, but there were too many problems and emergencies
Yeah.
and temporaries coming off. And so I realized I just love to do this. But it's really great now because there's no partners that are like, no, I want that case. No, I want, no, that should be mine. That should be mine. It's
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
someone comes in and it's a full mouth rehab, Mark's like, oh, you got to see Matt for this. He's
Hmm.
really the guy for this. And it's true. I mean, Matt is
Yeah.
the guy for that. So some of that is realizing what you like. It's again
Mhm.
that first step, right? It's realizing, it's understanding yourself, it's looking internally. And we
Yeah.
can look internally on our health, we can look internally on our clinical work, we can look
Mhm.
internally on our non-clinical work.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good thing because I don't know if a lot of dentists think about this. Like
No,
for
and it's
me, I hate packing cord.
I know when you were telling the other story about the other Laura, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, you have that in common
Yeah,
because you hate
I,
back and
I know
cord.
when she told me I hate packing cord, I'm like, oh my God, me too. That's the
That's funny.
worst.
Mm, totally, totally.
So
So, what are some of our final thoughts?
yeah. So I think every complex decision you have to make starts with understanding yourself.
Yes.
The more you can understand yourself, it's much easier to get on the right path to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this and if you're like, God, dentistry is so frustrating and I'm annoyed every time I come home, I would say first, great job for
Yeah,
noticing that.
totally.
Because sometimes it takes people a long time to even notice that. It takes them getting fully into burnout to notice
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And then I would start to get data, like
Mm-hmm.
Martin said. So that could come from your practice management system,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're looking at like case acceptance or number
Yep.
of cases or production, but some of it you may have to make your own data, which is exactly what you said. Having a little journal. And it could be as easy as I did a crown. How do I feel 0 to 10?
Yeah,
I mean, it could
totally.
be so simple, but we need some data to really understand this.
Mm-hmm.
If you practice with other people, especially partners or associates, I would also ask them
Mm-hmm.
their perception of you after doing certain things.
Yeah.
Because honestly, my partners did this to me. They're like, Kyle, you're always pissed off after you do a single crown. You come back here, you're always like, ugh, and you're short with the team and with us, and it was hard to hear, but
Yeah.
they were right.
Yeah,
They were so
exactly.
right. Honestly, ask your assistants too,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
your assistants know when you're like putting the Explorer down with a little bit of vigor and when you're getting up and
Yeah.
being a little diva sometimes. I would ask them and they may say, "Oh yeah, Dr. Stanley, like when you do implants, you are just in the zone and I think that, you know, and you're great at that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
could you focus more on that?"
Yeah.
Ask the people around you because maybe you don't have that self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, when you ask that, you have to be open to the answer.
Yeah. 100%.
Because I had a very big ego back in the day, and that was for me to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally. 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 Um, I think for
And
me, just in summary, it's asking yourself how true is that? I hate dentistry. Well, is it dentistry or is it certain elements of dentistry? And is it clinical or is it administrative? Those kind of things. And also giving yourself the grace not to, as Gary DeWitt always says, shit all over yourself, where
Mhm.
I shouldn't feel this way. Well, who said that? I mean, if you're feeling this way, then it's valid, period. So if you're feeling this way, then the next step is great. Where's it coming from? What's
Yeah,
the source? Are there other possibilities, rather whether it's outsourcing on the business side or changing around your clinical life within, obviously reasonable limits depending on what your situation is. But give yourself a pat on the back for being honest and then figuring out specifically what it is and then figure out what your next steps are to make that change. Yes, very simple, not very easy. But most problem solving is that simple, but not necessarily that easy. So,
Yeah, I think it's great. Well,
yeah.
if you guys enjoyed this, I hope that you're not in this situation.
Yeah.
But even if you're not in this situation, doesn't mean you may never be in this situation.
Yeah.
So remember this, that if something comes, you know what to do. You have these first steps. And if you have a colleague that you think may be here or may need to hear this, please just send it to them. I know that when people send, my friends send me podcasts, it goes to the top of my listen list, and we would really appreciate that. If you want to go deeper into all the topics that we talked about today, go to wellnessanddentistry.com, go to our links, and you can see our Lightside Live 2-day course. You get 12 CE credits. It's really a transformational course. We have a lot of people that say it's the best CE course they've taken in 20, 30 years. And that's
Yep.
not coming from us, okay? That's coming from
Oh,
them. And we hope to see you there. We just had someone sign up this morning
yes.
as we're recording this. So another sign up coming, and we hope to see you August 8th and 9th in Southern California. And we'll see you on the next episode of Wellness and Dentistry.
Take care.